Hey, good morning. I'm not Pastor Melanie. No. Confusing everyone. In a second, I'm going to turn to Luke 17, verse 11. So if you guys want to head there right now. How's everyone doing today? Well, that's great. One person. Woo! All right. You guys got to be, this is like the 11 o'clock service. You guys got to be a little more active, okay? But just before I get started, I just wanted to thank again, Pastor Melanie and the church itself for this opportunity. So, Luke chapter 17, starting in verse 11. Follow me in your Bibles, devices, all that good stuff. All right. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go, show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." All right, so in this story, you have 10 guys who have leprosy. If you don't know what leprosy is, it was a really bad disease back then. There was nothing that they could do, no way they could really heal it. Basically, these guys would, as it says there, they shouted out to Jesus because when they went out, they had to stay away from everyone. They had like leper villages that they would stay in. And then when they would go out to meet the people or go throughout in the town, they would actually have to maintain a very far distance from the people, and they'd have to shout out, "I'm unclean, I'm unclean," because everyone was afraid of them, and they didn't want what they had and everything like that. So these 10 guys have this disease that no one can heal up until they meet Jesus. And they meet Jesus. Jesus touches them, tells them to go be cleansed. They go, and as they walk away, they are healed. By not a doctor's hand, nothing like that. Beyond human comprehension, something that cannot be healed, and yet only one of them turns around and comes to Jesus and says, "Thank you." How many of you guys have ever done anything that you have never been appreciated for? Come on. Anyone? Okay. I'm the youth pastor, so I'm active. Raise your hand. Woo! All right. I one time when I was in youth group, everyone loved our youth pastor. Our old youth pastor was there for, when he finally left, he was there for 25 years as the youth pastor. And everyone loved him, but, sometimes people don't appreciate them as well as, you just kind of get used to the person being there. And so it was his birthday. I was one of the youth kids, and I was like, you know what? I want to do something that is really great, that shows him our appreciation for him. So I went out with a video camera. And I went and found youth that were going there, and then youth that used to went to the youth group and all that kind of stuff. And I videotaped them just wishing him a happy birthday and saying something nice to him. Put it all together on a nice, gave him a nice VHS cassette. You guys, how many don't know what a VHS cassette is? Please don't make me feel old. Okay, good. Everyone here hopefully knows. Okay, VHS cassette. I give it to him wrapped up nice. A week later, I'm like, after I poured all this time into it, well, what do you think of it? And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I loved it. It was great." Well, 2 years later, they were moving offices, and we were cleaning out his office. He wasn't in there at the time. We were moving his stuff to the new building. And as we were going through this closet that just had, it was his junk closet that just had like everything piled up into it. At the very, very bottom of the closet was my still wrapped video cassette broken. Yes, it hurt. You pour so much into something and you feel like you're unappreciated. How many, again, raising of hands, how many of you guys have ever done that, going out of your way and you feel that way? Well, I have an object lesson that's kind of like what we're talking about tonight. So to get this started, I need a volunteer. Don't everyone raise their hand at once. Okay, I need a volunteer. I need a volunteer that has a $1 bill. Okay, a volunteer that has a $1 bill. Christine, come on up here. Huh? I'm not going to tear your dollar. All right, come on up. Come on up. That'd be mean to tear money.
I just know your history.
Huh? I might have torn money before. All right. Thank you for your dollar. Okay, you can go sit down. All right. I need another volunteer. I'm looking for $10. No, okay, come back, Christine. Here's your dollar back. I don't steal money in front of people. No, come here. I still, let me. All right. I have a dollar bill as well. Here you go. We're going to play a game called Let's Make a Deal. You guys know what that is, right? All right. During the first service, we went through envelopes 1 and 2. You have the opportunity to win cash prize. All right. Ooh. Good studio audience. All right. You have that $1. You can keep the $1, or you can choose whatever is in envelope number 3 or 4. Now, there are just pieces of paper in here which say what the prize is, and then you can cash in your prize at the end of service. So if you look at it and you're like, that doesn't look like a dollar bill, it's not, because it's written on there. So keep it 3 or 4.
Keep it 3.
So it's a lot of pressure. 3, all right. I will take my dollar back. All right, open up number 3 and tell us what you have won.
Stacking the chairs.
Woo! And someone is going to stack the chairs after service. Thank you. You can go sit down. All right. Obviously, she won the best prize ever. Now, all right, so I need someone else who wants an opportunity to win and hopefully... I have 1 envelope left, so, and hopefully win a cash prize. All right, raise your hand. Volunteer. Wow, you guys are shy? Okay, right over here. Come on up. All right, here's your dollar bill. And you can keep the dollar bill or take envelope number 4. Okay, envelope number 4. All right, and you have won?
High five.
A high five. Woo! The gift that keeps on giving. All right. See, they found out in the first service the envelopes didn't have anything in it. In fact, the dollar I gave you was the cash prize. I was betting on the fact that people would always want to gamble with what's in the envelope. And there was no prizes in the envelope. But it all has a point, and that is what we're talking about today, because we're talking about thankfulness. And the truth is that with all these people, again, I played on the fact that I was hoping they would pick the envelope. They have the prize in their hand, and yet so many times we're focused on everything else than what we really have already. So we talked about how people can be unappreciative. I think a lot of times, raise your hand if you are one, but parents, how many of you guys ever feel unappreciative because you have your kids that obviously, raise your hand if you are a parent and you have done at least one thing for your kid that they have never said thank you for. Okay, now in the same thing, if you're a parent, raise your hand if you have done one thing for your kid that instead of showing appreciation, they complained. Yes, all right. I only know this because I am a kid and my mom is actually in the other room in the Bible study right now. In my family, I have 2 younger brothers. Joel is 3 years younger than me, and Trevor is 12 years younger than me. Don't ask me to tell you their ages because I can't do the math right now. But Joel, growing up, every kid has their own little quirkiness. My brother Joel, he never for like a period of like 2 years didn't eat a single meal that my mom made. My mom would make meals, and he would refuse to eat it. And in my house, if you refused to eat it, you just didn't really eat. And so for a whole year straight, he learned how to cook hot dogs because that was the only thing that he would make. And so my mom would make these huge meals, these nice meals, and he would sit at the meal and be like, this is disgusting. Then there's Trevor. Trevor, he went through a phase where his clothing, he would change his clothes 10 times a day. And this isn't like teenager, like, oh, this looks gross. No, he was like 8 years old, and he was just like, I mean, whether it was like a drip got on it, or he just felt like he sweated too much, or there was too much sunlight on his outfit, or whatever, he would literally, you'd see him leave the room, come back, another outfit, about 10 minutes later, leave the room, come back, another outfit, and each time, being the good kid that he is, he takes all those clothes and throws them into the dirty laundry bin. So my mom was doing laundry about 3 or 4 times a week for him. And then me, on the other hand, I am perfect. My parents did not have a hard time with me. Don't ask my mom.
Would your mom say that?
Huh? Well, that's why I said don't ask her. Of course I'm perfect. People can be so unappreciative, even when it comes to gifts. How many of you guys have ever got the gift that literally keeps on giving? You get it, and you wrap it up, and you give it at the next Christmas party. Me and my wife got so tired of it because there is someone that constantly does this to us that we just have a shelf that we just put it. So we have the shelf of ungiftable gifts, I guess it would be. So hopefully you guys will never receive one of these from us. People can be unappreciative, just like kids, adults, everything like that. But the question is, which kind of ties into the Bible story, is this. How many times have we been that way when it comes to God? How many times have we looked at God and treated God the same way that parents get mad at their kids for doing? How many times have we been like that leper? There were 10 of them healed from something that no one else could heal, and yet only one turned around to say thank you. How many times have we done that to God? See, God gets, if parents get a bad rap, God gets it even worse, because I've talked to people before, and you have these people that they up and down, I do not believe in God, God does not exist, and then when their car breaks down, they're like, God, how could you do this to me? I hate you. Even if they don't believe in God, they still get mad at God. How many of you guys have ever gotten mad at God before? Thanksgiving is a time where, and like they were talking about, you see it on Facebook and everyone's being thankful, and it's an awesome thing to remember the things that we are thankful for, to appreciate them. You know, we have the posts. Some people around their Thanksgiving dinner, they'll say what they're thankful for. But the way I see it, when it comes to God, there are too many times we treat him like he's a gift card, where we come to him with more requests, and we never are truly thankful for what he has done in our lives or what he has blessed us with. And so the way I see it two ways. Being thankful in the good is one of them, and being thankful in the bad is the other. Being thankful in the good. Sometimes when things are great, that is the hardest time to be thankful, because our focus is just on how great things are. How many of you guys have ever just had like a great week and then it's spoiled? Like I used to have this all the time. I'd have a great night at church, and I'd be like, oh Jesus, I'm going to change. And then I got in the car and my mom was like, you didn't put your clothes away. Well, you know what? And completely threw out the window everything that God had just kind of done to me. How many of you guys, when things are good, sometimes you almost find that you don't spend as much time with God because you don't really have a reason to. And we forget, again, to be thankful to God. There was a time that I was upset about something. You ever just have those arguments or those fights, or you're just mad, and during the moment it is the most important thing in the world, but then looking back like a year or two later, you're like, that was the stupidest thing ever. I don't understand why I was mad about that. Well, I was mad about something, and I was asking God, where are you? Why is this happening? What is happening? Where are you? I thought you were supposed to be in control of everything. Why are you not here helping me with this? Looking back, it was over a stupid thing, but during that time, it was so important to me. And I felt God really tell me, well, the truth is, why are you asking me this now when every time, every day, I am there and I bless you and you completely ignore me? I mean, honestly, even if you look at the small things in our life, how many times have we driven somewhere and prayed for God's protection? Well, guess what? If you're here, he answered the prayer. How many times have we prayed for, just different things in our life, and even the simplest things that we just kind of throw out the window? When it happens, when God blesses us, when God provides, because they were small little requests, we never really say thank you. We never really appreciate what God has done in us and for us. And then the other thing is being thankful in the bad. Paul talks about this in Corinthians, in 1 Corinthians 12, starting in verse 7. He says, or because of these surpassingly great revelations, therefore, in order to keep me from being conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest in me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. Basically, what Paul is going on here is, people say different things. If you look at the history of it, they're like, oh, well, he had this or he had this. Something happened in his life that was majorly affecting him. And so he went to God and he said, God, I need you to take this away. And he prayed 3 times. And finally, God is like, in your weakness, I am made strong. And so Paul said, you know what? I'm going to be thankful for what I have then. I'm going to be thankful for this affliction that I have. I mentioned it last time I was preaching, but I was born with a skin disorder called epidermolysis bullosa simplex. Big word. EBS for short. And the basic understanding is my body doesn't produce enough of the nutrients or whatever that keep your skin completely connective. And because of that, I get blisters all over my body that are like 2nd-degree burns. When I was born with blisters all over my body. It is very painful. I mean, I've had it where when you grow up, where kids are going on field trips and you're being taken with a wheelchair because you can't walk because of how bad the blisters are. My dad used to have to carry me around a lot, 6, even 7 years old, because I had blisters all over. And as you get older, you have chances of it getting better, and it has somewhat. I've through it, the doctors have discovered I have some type of arthritis too, or whatever, because it affects your entire body. And so growing up with this, I grew up with pain. And my other brothers are fine. I was the only one that was born that way. And so growing up like that, when you are just constantly in pain, when you constantly can't keep up with anyone else, when people look at you and they see you as different, it made me start to question God about why he would even do this to me. Why would I be born this way? And there was a time in my life where I was just so upset with God over why he would allow this. And then, even imagine what it does to the family, because, my mom used to have to sit there when I was 2 and 3 years old screaming because of the pain and have to cut the blisters and different things like that. It is hard. And it makes me question at that time why God would allow it. And I prayed, God, please heal it. And I've heard growing up, I didn't have, during that time I hadn't gone to Bible college, so I didn't know what to tell people. But I had people approach me and say at 8 years old, well, the reason you haven't been healed is you don't have enough faith. I've heard all the horrible Christian answers that they give sometimes. But there came a point in my life where, after asking God over and over and over again and not seeing any healing, God began to work in me, and he said, you know what? I am not going to allow this thing that to me and to everyone else be a weakness. I'm not going to allow it to be that way. I'm going to give it to God and allow God to do something with it. Because the truth is, God takes what we give him and he always makes it into something better, something beautiful. We see brokenness, he sees beauty. And so I gave it to him. And I can tell you that there have been times I will not always be the coolest. I know I'm cool right now, but I will not always be the coolest youth pastor, overseas missions, or whatever, wherever God has me. I will not always be the coolest. I will not always have the best things to say. I will not always have the coolest tricks. But I can tell you something that has carried over and over and over, no matter who I've talked to, is this: pain is universal. And it doesn't matter what you look like or how you act or where you grew up or where you live. Pain is something that everyone understands. And when I can talk to people about how God is using my skin disorder to change other people's lives just by bringing God, it is God using that thing that I was born with and turning it into something amazing. But what it took was for me to be thankful in something that I saw as horrible. What thankfulness is, it is not just something that, and it's great that we have the holiday and it's great that we have this month, but it's not something that should just be lived in the month of November or for 30 days during this Thanksgiving time. It should become a lifestyle. It should become the way that we live. Because it's kind of like this, and I'm going to do an object lesson, and this second service is what worries me, because the first service went fine with the object lesson. Last time, that's what happened too, and then the second service, the object lesson became botched. So, and I'm live streaming, and it's videotaping, so there's a lot of pressure on me. So I'm going to try this, and I'm going to explain. I'm not going to have the mic, but I'm going to explain it to you. And even if it doesn't work, just clap, woo, that's great, and I will try to turn it around somehow. All right. All right, so basically, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but I got a cup, I got water. I'm not going to spill it, hopefully. Beautiful rock, but it's water, so it shouldn't say too much. How many of you guys have ever seen the trick when it comes to, like, you have the gravity feed or whatever? You guys ever seen that? Well, basically, this is kind of like that. It's a gravity feed, although they didn't have any cardboard, so I have paper towel, which is why I'm hoping that this doesn't fail badly. It's a science project. You have gravity, and when you put something there that's blocking it, gravity can work up over, and it should go upside down. But basically, okay. So it's kind of like our attitude. It's kind of like our attitude. See, when we have a thankful attitude, things begin to change. It changes our priorities, the way that we view things. We can go around and we can look at every hurt that's been done to us. We can look at, maybe in my case, how I've been born or different things like that, and always focus on that. And if we do, all it does is birth more depression, more anger, more hurt. But if we look at thankfulness, if we look to God and are honestly thankful for everything that He has blessed us with, even in the small, it begins to do something. It begins to change our attitude. In the way that we think, the way that we look at things. It changes our entire focus. And what happens is when we do that, God can do amazing things. All right. Wow, it worked. All right. See, thankfulness is an attitude. It's not just something that we do on November. It has to be something that we continue to choose to live daily. We need to change the way that we were just talking with the youth, the high school Wednesday night about how, sadly, too many times Christians can be selfish. And the truth is, so many times when we're going through stuff, our focus is ourselves. When I was going through my skin thing, listen, it was bad, but I posted on Facebook a video. I have a bad case of it. But I posted on Facebook a video of a boy who has an extreme case of it. And literally when he was born, there was no skin on his feet. He has to stay wrapped up and bandaged. And it is just, this boy is 12 years old and is just in horrendous pain constantly. There was a time that I was working or volunteering at a place called Give Kids the World. It's in Orlando. And it's an awesome place. If you guys ever have the opportunity to volunteer there, it's great. It's basically most of the major theme parks all throughout Orlando have come together and helped this guy built this place. And if you have a child that's part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation or anything like that, they'll fly within a 24-hour notice. They'll fly the family there, and they have like a hut for each family that's designed to hold all their medical stuff. And then what they do is all throughout the week they have different things. They have their own carousel, they have their own water park, they have their own beach. And then the theme parks give them free tickets. And it's all these kids that basically, I mean, some of them when I was working there, one of them had, like, they said this is probably going to be their last year there because this kid was looking at dying. And all these kids have different stuff. A lot of them are terminal. And while you're there, you feel bad and you're sad and you're looking at it. I mean, every week they celebrate Christmas. Every week they celebrate Halloween because you don't know when it's going to be the kid's last one. And there was a family there, and basically they had come with their son a couple of times, and both of the families, they had their kids had different diseases that were affecting them, and the son they were talking about it, and like the parents on their own were talking, that the kid had about 4 or 5 years, and they were talking with a parent who their kid, again, from what the doctors were saying, it was going to be the kid's last year, and they were there despite what their son was going through. Every 5 seconds, can we get you this? Can we get this? Can we help out? Now, here is a kid that is going to die in a couple of years, and his family, instead of just focusing on him, they are helping others. They're not focusing on, this is the pain that we're going through. They're focusing on, I'm helping this family because they have an even worse pain. And see, that's the thing, is that too many times, I can look at my skin disease and say, well, God, this is horrible. And yet there's a boy half a world away that has it even worse than me. It is almost a selfishness. And that is why thankfulness, especially to God, needs to be a focus, and it needs to be our lifestyle. It needs to go beyond November. It needs to be in everything that we look at and everything that we do. The focus needs to be off of us and looking to God. God, I thank you for this. There are so many times, God, I get, not me, but people can be like, God, I hate my job. God, I hate this. God, I can't believe this car broke down again. God, I can't believe, instead of saying, God, you know what? I might not like my job, but I have a job and it's providing money. God, you know what? My car is broken down again, but you know what? You got me this car so many years ago that has got me through these many years, and it's going to happen again. It might require a little work, a little money, but you bless me with it. Imagine what happens to our attitude when our focus is not on what's happening to us, but on being thankful for everything that God has given to us. I have a little thing that I found online, and it's a little story. A child's perspective of thankfulness. When asked to list what he was thankful for, one little boy wrote, "My glasses." "That's good," said the teacher. "They help you see better." "No," responded the child. "I'm thankful for my glasses because they keep the other boys from hitting me and fighting with me, and the girls from kissing me." This little guy clearly understood the meaning of gratitude. See, when our focus is on ourselves, when our focus is honestly being thankful in the big and the small and the good and the bad, it changes the way we look at life. There's a story in the Bible, in the book of Acts, of Paul and Silas. And they're thrown into prison for doing a good thing, and they're in prison. Now, their prison is nothing like our prisons nowadays, but I still would not want to be thrown in prison for something that I did that was good. And they're in prison, and when most people would be sitting there complaining and asking God where he is, these men are actually in there, and they're having like a praise and worship service, and they're worshiping God. And through that, God does a miracle, and then the jailer and his family all get saved. Because their focus wasn't on their circumstances. Their focus wasn't on themselves. Their focus was, I'm going to be thankful for everything that I have, for everything that God has done. When we do that, when we set our eyes on other things, when we are thankful, God changes our attitude. Instead of depression, we're more happy because we're not focused on who we're fighting with or what they've done to us. We're focused on loving and just being thankful and being happy. And last but not least, there's a story in the Bible, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago in church, of Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus, he was a tax collector, and he stole money and everything like that. But when he came to Jesus, after stealing all this money from all these people, and he truly had a life-changing moment with Jesus, he went out, and because of his thankfulness, he actually gave away more than he had taken from people. Because it changes your attitude. My challenge to you is, Thanksgiving is coming up, and you're going to be around family and friends, and you might love it or you might hate it. Look for opportunities to be thankful. Instead of being depressed, instead of getting mad or upset, look for opportunities to be thankful for all that you have. And then take it beyond November. Take that thankfulness into each and every day. Because when we choose to do that, when we make a choice, that as I was writing this, and I am a person that when I'm working on my sermon or anything like that, I need to stay focused. And there was this kid, and I'm being transparent. There was a youth kid who comes early all the time, and he is such a nice kid. And he was in my office, and he was just pacing back and forth while he was reading a book. And I'm sitting there going, I cannot write this thing while this kid is pacing back and forth. And immediately God hit me and said, so you're talking about thankfulness, and you're complaining about the kid that's in here. Because the truth is that instead of looking at the fact that it is so great that there is a youth kid that is here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because he's hungry about what's going to happen later on, I was focused on, but God, I can't write my sermon. And God taught me a lesson. And it needs to be our attitude in everything. So that's my challenge to you.